Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. And today we're going to be looking at something pretty interesting.
Ooh.
We're going like way, way back.
Okay.
Almost 2,000 years.
Wow.
To explore this letter.
Okay.
From the Apostle Paul to this early Christian community in Corinth.
Right.
And I think this is going to be really interesting.
I think so, too.
For our listeners, even if they're not, particularly religious or anything.
Yeah.
This letter gives us, I think, a really fascinating peek into this like pivotal moment for a brand new faith.
It does.
We're talking about how they tackled these practical matters like finances, travel, dealing with conflict.
Yeah, day-to-day stuff.
Day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
We've even got a holy kiss in here.
Ooh, intriguing.
So.
Yeah, it's a truly remarkable primary source.
Right.
It shows us how these early believers really live their faith.
Yeah.
Day in and day out.
Absolutely. And so, first up, let's look at Paul's instructions about collecting money.
Okay.
For the saints in Jerusalem.
Right.
Now, he's very detailed about this.
Yeah, he's very specific.
He asks them to set aside money each week in proportion to what they can afford.
Right.
So this isn't just like random generosity, right?
No, not at all. This points to something much deeper,
Okay.
This systematized giving that they were doing, it was like an early form of welfare. And it really showcases how the community put their faith into action by taking care of those in need.
Right.
And this wasn't unique to Corinth.
Right.
This commitment to share resources was really a hallmark of early Christian communities. In fact, some scholars even draw parallels between this practice and certain aspects of modern welfare models.
So their belief system was like woven into their everyday lives.
It was.
It extends beyond, just individual salvation to communal responsibility.
Absolutely.
And it really makes you wonder, like, how these acts of giving impacted the community as a whole.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. It's fascinating to consider that, those acts of communal giving, it really could have forged stronger bonds within the community.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes you think like pooling their resources may have allowed them to support those who are facing, hardship, illness, or persecution, and.
Wow. Yeah. So next, Paul outlines his upcoming travel plans.
Okay.
And it sounds like he's got a pretty complex itinerary.
It does.
He mentions traveling through Macedonia.
Okay.
And expresses this desire to spend an extended period in Corinth.
Right.
He even hints at the possibility of, like, wintering there.
Wintering there.
Wow.
So this isn't just a quick, like, hello and goodbye visit, right?
No, you're absolutely right. This planned trip, it really highlights the significance of Paul's relationship.
Yeah.
With the Corinthian community.
Right.
Spending this extended period there, it would have allowed him to really deepen that connection.
Yeah.
To teach, to offer guidance, especially since this was a relatively new community,
Yeah.
They were grappling with all the challenges of living out their faith in a world that wasn't always so welcoming. Right. And so this extended visit and his earlier instructions about collecting money, do you think it's possible that Paul intended to, like, personally deliver those funds to Jerusalem?
Ooh, that's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
That's a plausible theory.
Right.
I mean, it would align with Paul's dedication to supporting the wider Christian community.
Yeah.
Imagine the impact of personally delivering those funds.
Yeah. Right.
It would tangibly connect the Corinthians to their brothers and sisters in Jerusalem.
Wow.
Reinforcing that sense of unity and shared purpose that was so vital to the early church.
Right. And, that personal touch could have made a world of difference, especially back then,
Yeah.
when communication and travel were so much more difficult.
Absolutely.
Now things take a bit of a dramatic turn.
Okay.
When Paul mentions his stay in Ephesus, he speaks about an open door of great opportunity,
Right.
but also these many opponents that he's facing.
Interesting.
So this is intriguing, isn't it?
Yeah. What is this open door? Right. The phrase open door. It was a common metaphor in the early Christian writings, and it symbolized these opportunities to spread their message.
Okay.
So think of it as this window of opportunity for Paul to preach to new audiences and gain converts in Ephesus.
So it wasn't like a literal open door.
Yeah.
It was more about having the chance to share the Christian message.
Exactly.
Okay.
Imagine Paul preaching in the bustling marketplaces of Ephesus, engaging in philosophical debates, and perhaps even converting individuals who were intrigued by his message.
Right.
However, the success often came at a cost,
Right.
His opponents likely included those who felt threatened by his teachings,
Oh, yeah.
perhaps fearing social upheaval, economic disruption, or a challenge to their own religious beliefs.
So it sounds like this constant push and pull between spreading the Christian message and facing this resistance from those who perceived it as a threat.
Right.
It makes you realize just how challenging life must have been for these early Christians.
It does. Choosing to embrace Christianity often meant facing social ostracization, persecution, even violence.
Wow.
Their courage in the face of such adversity is remarkable.
Yeah, it really is. So while navigating these external pressures, Paul also had to address some internal conflicts within the Corinthian community.
Right.
He mentions Timothy, his close companion and fellow missionary.
Right.
He seems to be facing some apprehension or negativity from some members of the community.
Yeah, it seems like Timothy, maybe due to his youth or perceived lack of authority, wasn't being treated with the respect Paul felt that he deserved.
Okay.
So he steps in to defend Timothy, urging the Corinthians to recognize his dedication and value his contribution, to their shared mission.
And even in this close-knit community, bound by their faith, there were still these interpersonal challenges.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's almost as if leading this fledgling movement was this constant juggling act, trying to maintain unity while addressing these personal conflicts and these differing opinions.
Absolutely. And, it highlights those complexities of leadership in a new and evolving religious movement.
Right.
In addition to Timothy, we also have the situation with Apollos.
Right.
Another prominent figure in the early church who seems to be absent from Corinth at the moment.
What's the story with Apollos? Was there some tension between him and the Corinthian community?
It's possible. Some scholars suggest that Apollos, who was known for his eloquence and theological knowledge, might have inadvertently fostered some rivalry or division within the community.
Oh, for real.
Perhaps some members favored his teachings over Paul's.
Interesting.
Leading to some internal discord.
So Paul mentions that Apollos isn't coming to visit right now.
Yeah.
But will when he can?
Okay.
This suggests a very deliberate decision, right?
Yes, maybe to avoid adding fuel to the fire of any existing disagreements.
Wow. It's amazing how they had to navigate all these complex interpersonal dynamics even back then.
I know, it's fascinating.
Managing diverse personalities and opinions within a growing movement. It must have presented its own set of challenges.
It did.
It's almost like a microcosm of what we see in broader society today.
You've hit on a key point there.
Yeah.
This timeless nature of these challenges, whether it's a fledgling religious community or a modern-day organization.
Right.
Navigating differing opinions and personalities is an inherent part of building and sustaining a community.
Absolutely.
So
after addressing all these personal matters,
Paul then kind of shifts gears.
Okay.
And offers some general words of encouragement to the Corinthians.
Right.
It's almost like he's giving them a pep talk.
A little pep talk.
Urging them to stay alert, stand firm in the faith, show courage, and be strong.
Yeah. Powerful words.
They are powerful words. And they were more than just motivational slogans, right?
Absolutely.
This was a time when, openly professing Christianity could have some serious consequences.
Right.
They were facing real-world dangers and opposition.
Yeah, they were.
And Paul's words offered this potent blend of reassurance and a call to action.
I think you're right.
These weren't just words to live by.
Yeah.
They were words to survive by.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating to consider how Paul's words would have resonated with the Corinthians.
Yeah.
How would they have interpreted those phrases like stand firm in the faith and show courage?
Right.
What specific actions or behaviors would they have associated with those exhortations?
It's a great question, and it pushes us to go beyond, just a surface level reading of Paul's letter.
It does.
And to delve into that historical context.
Yep.
For these early Christians, standing firm in the faith
could
have meant refusing to renounce their beliefs.
Yeah.
Even when threatened with persecution.
Exactly.
It might have involved continuing to meet and worship together.
Yeah.
Despite the risks, offering support to those who were, facing hardship and boldly proclaiming their faith in a world that was often hostile to them. Their faith was like this active force in their lives.
It was.
It wasn't just a set of beliefs. But a way of navigating the world,
Yeah.
Confronting challenges and finding strength and meaning amidst adversity.
Precisely. It's easy to view those words as abstract concepts, but for the Corinthians, they were living, breathing realities.
Yeah, they really were. And so amidst all this talk of standing firm and being strong, Paul also emphasizes the importance of acting in love.
Yes, he does.
He even calls out specific individuals, like Stephanus and his household, and praises their dedication to serving the community.
It's a beautiful testament to the power of action driven by faith. You know, Stephanus and his family weren't just passively believing. They were actively living out their faith through service.
Yeah.
They embodied the concept of Christian love in their daily lives, providing a really concrete example for the community to follow.
And makes you wonder, like, what specific acts of service were they engaged in?
That's a great question. You know,
were they providing food and shelter to those in need?
Right.
Were they visiting the sick, offering comfort to those who were grieving? Were they even risking their own safety to help those who are being persecuted?
Those are all plausible scenarios.
Yeah.
And they highlight the tangible impact of their dedication. You know, their actions served as a powerful example, demonstrating that faith wasn't just about words or rituals.
Right.
It was about translating belief into action.
It's a legacy that I think continues to inspire many faith communities today.
It does.
Think about all the volunteers who dedicate countless hours to supporting their communities, running food banks, visiting the elderly, offering mentorship to youth. Yeah. They're carrying on that tradition of service.
They are.
Driven by this desire to make a difference.
Absolutely.
In the lives of others.
It's a powerful testament to the enduring impact of those early Christian ideals.
It really is.
You know, even though centuries have passed,
yeah,
that commitment to service and compassion continues to inspire individuals across various faiths and backgrounds.
And as we approach the end of the letter, Paul takes this moment to relay greetings from various churches and individuals.
Right.
It's almost like he's trying to connect these scattered communities, reminding them that they're part of something much larger than themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He mentions Aquila and Prisca, this couple who hosted a church in their home.
Right.
Highlighting the importance of community and fellowship.
Yeah.
They transformed their home into a sanctuary.
Wow.
A space for connection and support.
Yeah.
In a world that often felt hostile.
And I can almost picture it.
Me too.
This small group of believers gathered in this dimly lit room. Sharing a simple meal, discussing their faith. Seeking solace in each other's company. And finding strength to face the challenges of living as Christians. In a world that didn't always understand them or accept them.
It's a powerful image, isn't it? And it speaks to the intimate and personal nature of early Christianity. You know, these weren't just abstract figures in a history book. They were real people forging deep connections and finding strength and meaning in their shared faith.
Yeah, and then he wraps up the letter with a series of greetings, urging them to greet one another with a holy kiss.
The infamous holy kiss?
Yeah.
You know, it was more than just a casual greeting.
Really?
It represented unity and love within the community. It symbolized this bond that transcended social status, wealth, or background.
Right.
It also challenged societal norms.
How so?
Because outward displays of affection between members of the same sex were very uncommon.
Wow.
In Roman culture.
So it's fascinating how this seemingly simple act could carry so much weight, you know, both within the community and in relation to the broader culture.
Right.
You know, it makes you realize that even these small rituals serve to define and solidify their identity as this distinct group.
Precisely. The holy kiss wasn't just a gesture.
Right.
It was a powerful statement of their unity and their commitment to a different way of life.
And it's a really beautiful way to end the letter, you know?
It is.
Emphasizing that human element at the heart of their faith. But just as you think he's wrapping up on this warm and fuzzy note, Paul throws in this curveball.
Oh, boy.
He declares, "Let anyone who has no love for the Lord be accursed."
Wow, that's intense.
It's intense, especially after all that talk of love and community.
Right. It does seem jarring at first glance.
Right.
But remember the historical context.
Yeah.
Choosing to follow Christ often meant rejecting one's family.
Oh, wow.
Social standing, even their safety.
Right.
This statement wasn't so much about condemning individuals as it was about emphasizing the gravity of that choice.
So it's less of a threat and more of a stark reality check about the commitment involved in being a Christian at that time.
Exactly. And it highlights this tension that existed for these early believers, you know, the pull between the familiar world they were leaving behind and the uncertainties of embracing this new faith.
Right. And right after that seemingly harsh statement, Paul softens the blow with a message of hope. Our Lord come, the grace of the Lord Jesus be with you.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's saying, yes, the choice is serious, but for those who embrace this faith, there's also this promise of something greater.
Right.
A promise of grace and salvation.
Precisely. It perfectly encapsulates that duality of Paul's message, that weight of the choice,
right,
alongside the hope and promise of redemption.
And then he closes the letter with this simple yet powerful message. My love be with all of you in Christ Jesus.
Beautiful ending.
Isn't it?
Don't you think?
After all the instructions, the encouragements, the warnings.
Right.
He leaves them with this reminder of his love and connection to this community.
He does.
It's like he's saying, no matter what challenges you face, remember that you are loved and supported.
Yes.
Both by me and by the wider Christian community.
Exactly. And that sense of connection and shared purpose.
Yeah.
It must have been incredibly powerful.
It must have been.
Especially in a world where they were often marginalized and misunderstood.
So we've taken quite a journey through this letter.
We have.
It's fascinating from a historical perspective, you know?
It is.
But what makes it relevant to us today?
Yeah.
Even if we're not particularly religious?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
You know, what makes this letter so compelling is its window into the human experience of faith. You know?
Right.
We see a community grappling with these real-world issues.
Yeah.
Finances, travel personality, conflicts, external pressures.
Right.
It's a reminder that even in this vastly different time and place, they face challenges that still resonate with us today.
Absolutely. And they found strength in their shared beliefs and the support of their community. It makes you think about the power of human connection and the search for meaning, regardless of one's specific beliefs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It also prompts us to consider, you know, the open doors.
Right.
And the opponents that we encounter in our own lives.
Yeah.
What opportunities do we have? What obstacles do we face?
Yeah.
You know, how do we, like the Corinthians, navigate those complexities, both internal and external, in pursuit of our own goals and values?
It's like we're having this conversation with history, you know, drawing parallels between their experiences and our own.
Right.
We see that even though the specifics may change, the underlying human struggles and aspirations,
they remain constant.
Yeah, they do.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And just as Paul urged the Corinthians to stay alert, stand firm, show courage, and be strong.
Right.
Perhaps we can find inspiration in those words.
Yeah.
As we navigate our own challenges and seek to live meaningful lives.
This letter offers this fascinating blend of historical insight and timeless wisdom, you know?
It does.
It reminds us that we're all on this journey together, seeking connection, facing adversity, and striving to make sense of the world around us.
Absolutely. And ultimately, that's the enduring power of texts like this.
Right.
You know, they transcend time and place.
Yeah.
Inviting us to reflect on our own lives, our choices, our commitments.
As we conclude this deep dive into Paul's letter to the Corinthians, I'm left with this final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
If you were to write a letter to your community today, what advice or words of encouragement would you offer?
Right.
And what open doors and opponents might they encounter as they pursue their goals?
It's a powerful question to ponder.
It is.
It challenges us to consider our roles within our own communities and the legacy we hope to leave behind.
It's as if we're continuing this conversation.
It is.
Started by Paul almost 2,000 years ago. And that's the beauty of exploring these ancient texts. You know, they spark these new dialogues and inspire us to live more meaningful and purpose-driven lives.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
It's not just about unearthing these historical facts.
Yeah.
You know, it's about connecting with those shared human experiences that transcend time and place.
Right.
You know, we become time travelers of sorts, peering into the lives and minds of people who lived long ago.
Right.
But wrestled with challenges that still resonate with us today.
Absolutely. And that's where true learning takes place.
It is.
When we can bridge the gap between the past and the present, you know? Realizing that we're all part of this ongoing human story.
Yes.
Each generation builds upon the experiences and insights of those who came before us.
And with that in mind, I think it's safe to say we've successfully completed our deep dive into Paul's letter to the Corinthians.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
And we still have so much more to uncover.
I know. It's amazing how much is packed into this one little letter.
But for now, we'll have to leave it there.
Right.
But don't worry, we'll be back soon.
We will.
With another deep dive into a fascinating piece of history.
Can't wait.
Until then, keep exploring.
Yes.
Keep questioning.
Keep thinking.
And keep connecting those dots.
Yes.
Between the past, the present, and the future.
I love it.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. And then he closes the letter with this simple yet powerful message. My love be with all of you in Christ Jesus.
Yeah. A beautiful ending.
Isn't it?
Don't you think after all the instructions, the encouragements, the warnings, he leaves them with this reminder of his love and connection to this community?
It's like he's saying, no matter what challenges you face, remember that you are loved and supported both by me and by this wider Christian community.
Exactly. And that sense of connection and shared purpose, it must have been incredibly powerful.
It must have been, especially back then, in a world where they were often marginalized and misunderstood.
Absolutely.
We've taken quite the journey through this letter.
We have.
It's fascinating from a historical perspective.
It is.
But what makes it relevant to us today?
Yeah.
Even if we're not particularly religious?
That's a great question. What makes this letter so compelling is this window into the human experience of faith.
Right.
We see a community grappling with these real-world issues.
Finances,
travel personality, conflicts, external pressures.
Right.
It's a reminder that even in a vastly different time and place, they face challenges that still resonate with us today.
And they found strength in their shared beliefs and the support of their community.
They did.
It makes you think about the power of human connection and that search for meaning.
It does.
Regardless of one's specific beliefs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it also prompts us to consider the open doors and opponents that we encounter in our own lives.
Right. What opportunities do we have? What obstacles do we face? How do we, like the Corinthians, navigate those complexities, both internal and external, as we pursue our own goals and values?
It's like we're having this conversation with history.
It really is.
Drawing parallels between their experiences and our own.
Right. And we see that even though the specifics may change, those underlying human struggles and aspirations remain constant.
Precisely. And just as Paul urged the Corinthians to stay alert, stand firm, show courage, and be strong.
Right.
Maybe we can find inspiration in those words.
Yeah.
As we navigate our own challenges and seek to live meaningful lives.
This letter offers such a fascinating blend of historical insight and timeless wisdom.
It does.
It reminds us that we're all on this journey together, seeking connection, facing adversity, and striving to make sense of the world around us.
Absolutely. And ultimately, that's the enduring power of texts like this.
Right.
They transcend time and place, inviting us to reflect on our own lives, our choices, our commitments.
So, as we conclude this deep dive into Paul's letter to the Corinthians, I'm left with this final thought-provoking question.
Okay, shoot.
If you were to write a letter to your community today, what advice or words of encouragement would you offer?
Right.
And what open doors and opponents might they encounter as they pursue their goals?
That's a powerful question to ponder.
It really is.
It challenges us to consider our roles within our own communities and the legacy we hope to leave behind.
It's almost as if we're continuing this conversation started by Paul almost 2,000 years ago.
It is.
And that's the beauty of exploring these ancient texts. They spark these new dialogues and inspire us to live more meaningful and purpose-driven lives.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's not just about unearthing these historical facts.
Right.
It's about connecting with those shared human experiences that transcend time and place.
We become time travelers of sorts.
Yeah.
Peering into the lives and minds of people who lived long ago but wrestled with challenges that still resonate with us today.
Absolutely. And that's where true learning takes place.
Right.
When we can bridge the gap between the past and the present.
Yeah.
Realizing that we're all part of this ongoing human story.
Right. And each generation builds upon the experiences and the insights
of
those who came before us.
And with that in mind, I think it's safe to say we've successfully completed our deep dive into Paul's letter to the Corinthians.
It does sound like it.
Yeah.
And we still have so much more to uncover.
I know. It's amazing how much is packed into this one little letter.
I know, but for now we'll have to leave it there.
I guess so.
But don't worry, we'll be back soon.
We will.
With another deep dive into a fascinating piece of history.
Can't wait.
Until then, keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
Keep thinking.
And keep connecting those dots between the past, the present, and the future.
I love it.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. So we covered quite a bit of ground in this letter, huh?
We did. We really dove deep.
Yeah, exploring their practices of communal support
Paul's travel plans.
Yeah.
The challenges of spreading their message in a new world.
Right.
Even the dynamics within the community.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
It really paints this picture of a community facing these challenges that we still see today.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a testament to how these texts connect us across centuries.
It is. It makes you think about the legacies we're building now.
Yeah.
You know, if we were writing letters to our community, what would we say?
Oh, that's a good question.
What wisdom would we want to pass down?
Yeah.
What challenges would we prepare them for?
Yeah, that's interesting to think about stepping outside our own moment.
Right.
Looking ahead.
Yeah. What would our open doors be?
Right. What would we warn about? What opponents would we point out?
Yeah. And what values would we want to see continue on?
Right. Maybe even change in ways we can't predict.
It's humbling to think about.
It is. You realize you're part of something much bigger than just yourself.
Right. Yeah. The story goes on and on.
It does.
And we each add our part to it.
We do.
I think that's what's so valuable about this perspective you get.
I agree.
That we're all leaving something behind for those who come next.
Yeah. And that's maybe the biggest thing we can take from Paul's letter.
It's not just history. It's like this guide for how to shape the future.
Exactly.
To face what's coming.
To be ready for the challenges and take the opportunities.
Well said.
Thank you.
It's been really insightful to explore this world.
It has.
Through this letter.
These old texts are just full of wisdom.
They really are.
Always something new to find.
Well, until our next deep dive.
Until then.
Keep exploring. Keep questioning.
Keep making those connections.
Between past, present, and future.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
See you next time.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.